I'd
map.
love to do something like that. So I am a musician myself, and
Oh,
I have
okay.
a sort of a previous history in electronic music. I have the green screen behind me because I'm in a studio right now that is just a huge mess.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but that's something that I do, and I still do. I was out on the weekend playing a gig somewhere for that, and I'd love to have kind of essentially do you know what a modular synthesizer is?
The name's ringing a
It's
bell,
it's the
but
one with all the patch points and all the
synthesize.
leads. You'll see people nerding out over them, and
Let me see if I can find a picture.
they're the big ones with the thousands of leads.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Okay.
And they in the last 10 years or so, they've kind of had a renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become, it is funny. So yeah, a lot of these synthesizers now will have modern modules, and there'll be ones that are sort of analog electronic components built in the old fashioned way, as it were. And then there'll be modules. So the idea is you can just sort of buy a new module and pop
Mm-hmm.
it in to your system and plug it in, and it will use the same standard power and audio and control signals specs to communicate with your other modules, so that you can take, say, this one makes a sound, this one filters a sound, this one delays a sound, and this one does sort of oscillating control values, and you can rewire those using the front panel patch points in any configuration how you like them. And a new development now is that little boards like 80 mega boards, teensy, that kind of stuff, they're very cheap, and there are often audio headers or audio shields for these, that it's become very easy to essentially make your own digital modules now out of basically off the shelf components, out of Arduinos and that kind of stuff, with 3D printed controls and all these kinds of things, which is very cool. So you have these great big analog synthesizers, and there might be like 6 instances of Linux running in there somewhere behind the scenes, that they don't really even know about. You turn it on. There are quite a lot of things. I've got a keyboard around here somewhere. That is a big sort of professional looking synthesizer keyboard. And when people got them and they started opening them up, they discovered there were Raspberry Pis inside them. And
Right.
some people were really quite upset about that. But it's kind of like, didn't really bother me. You're not paying for the chip in there. You're paying for the software and the sounds and the controls and all that kind of stuff. Like,
Honestly, to me, knowing that's there is kind of cool. Just because that gives you a lot of freedom in just like messing with it if you really wanted to.
Yeah, it is interesting. It is, yes. And there is like even stuff. I have a drum machine. Where is this? Hang on a sec.
All good.
Sorry. So I have like this thing, which is a Synthstrom Deluge, which is designed in New Zealand, and it's a sort of a synthesizer slash what do we got on here? Slash drum machine that will do all sorts of noises.
Yep.
And it is a custom design. I can't remember the chip it's running on, but it now has a hugely dedicated custom firmware team, which is just amazing. This sort of, the people who made this essentially open sourced the software that it runs on. So there is like an official firmware that you'll get if you buy one. It has the stock official firmware on it, and that's kind of guaranteed to not break anything, basically. And then there is at least one, if not more, community firmwares derived from that, which is great. It's amazing. What a great model to do, So if you think like, the other day I was having a rehearsal with someone with this, and then I was like, I just wish it went if I held shift and did that, it would do this really useful thing. And then, and they were like, well, you should go add it to the custom firmware. Probably shouldn't I? So, so that's really cool. I mean, small Linux devices, the ubiquity of them, and has been really great for the music industry, for DIY music hobbyists and professionals alike, which is very cool.
I never really looked into that area. Like, I know a lot of people are doing some really cool stuff with like smart home devices and things like that. I had no idea about the music stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I did. I've only done a little bit myself, but I did a computer science degree at some point. I was mostly self-taught and had worked in the industry. And then when I was, older, in my 30s, I was like, oh, I might just go get a piece of paper. All right. So I signed up to RMIT to, I convinced them that I didn't need an undergraduate. I said, I've worked and done this stuff already, and that was fine. So they let me into the master's program, more full to them. And then one of the subjects, I had a subject on operating systems. And so our project for that was we had to do something with the Raspberry Pi. We had to do something with it and modify the OS in some way, ideally, and, do a presentation on it. We built a drum machine or a sampling synthesizer, which at the time, now there's heaps of them, but at the time there wasn't a lot of those. I don't have the prototype anymore. I gave it to a friend, but it was really it was built out of a Raspberry Pi, and a rear view camera that screen, just the screen that you could buy off eBay. There were these like self-install kits for your car.
Right.
And it was kind of a cheap screen that had a HDMI input or something like that, or had a couple of different inputs. It might have even just been AV. And then I just kind of had like a busted up keyboard that I used for input into it. But that worked.
I can already imagine
really
what this thing looked like. That
it was all mounted in a cardboard box.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So good times. Doing that, but lots of fun. And I learned a lot about. That was a good project just to learn a lot about Linux to do as a lot of it, became what can I turn off? What can I get? What functions of Linux can I disable to get a steady kind of clock rate as possible, so that I've got reliable audio output over so many channels without stuttering or whatever like that, without some process suddenly 10 minutes in going, hey, I need all of your CPU for a second. So
I've got fun problems like that right now. That's every so often I have these audio output's fine. I don't care about output.
Yeah.
Audio input problems are the part where I'm concerned with.
Sure.
And there are issues right now where CPU spikes will cause stutters, and this is a known problem. It's been known for a while. And the devs are not entirely sure how to consistently address it. Yep.
Yeah, that stuff can be a problem. Especially, older computers, older designs, or you have very predictable CPU scheduling, but modern computers, no, it's out of your hands a lot of the time as an application to have anything to do with that. So, but then, when you're doing audio, you have some of the hardest real-time limits that you can possibly have. You're like, this buffer needs to be filled, and it needs to be filled within, a very, very short amount of time. Unless you want huge latency. So there are interesting problems. But the Raspberry Pis now, this was like a first or second generation one. So I think now they're quite a bit more advanced. But people who do all this stuff on Teensies and stuff now, which is very cool. Very, very cool. I haven't really done any for a bit. What I want to do, this is a long roundabout story, is what I would like to do eventually one day is kind of have my own sort of drum machines and stuff running as software in the back of the game. So I can build a patch Because what I tend to do now is I tend to design a sound on a keyboard or something, and then I record it and loop it up and arrange it and stuff. But what I'd like to not have to do that and have sort of the sound design pure or sort of being done inside the game already, and then it can just be fully reactive to the game.
Right. Okay.
Which is, yeah. But in a way, this is how, like, say, a Commodore 64 worked, right? A Commodore 64 literally had a synthesizer designed by a guy who designed full professional musical synthesizers on a chip, inside the computer. And now people still, they collect those chips. You can go on Alibaba and buy yourself a handful of fake knockoffs of those chips because there is value to somebody in producing fakes and selling them. And that's cool. And so the game, there is, no latency. The game is just literally saying to the synthesizer, quick, play this sound. The player fired their gun and it needs to go bloop. So you need to sort of make this sound. And I think that's great. That's super reactive. And for a long time, we moved, as audio fidelity got higher, we moved away from that ability to be reactive. So even with the, say, mid-90s LucasArts kind of games where they had this system called iMusic that was a sort of reactive music system. I have no idea how it worked, but sort of Pirates of the Monkey Island and that kind of stuff used these systems. iMuse. Anyway, so they were using MIDI. They were sending note data. So the information that they kept stored their music saying, play this note on this instrument for this length of time. And that's how, so then in the code, you could vary that. You could say longer or shorter times, whatever, be quite reactive still, even though once a sound was playing, that was kind of it. You couldn't do anything about it. And from there, we went to CD audio, which suddenly everything was amazingly huge fidelities. It was just a band playing. Amazing. But it was also static. It was also just a fixed piece of music that was unchanging. And now we've come back. So we have these we have Fmod and Wwise and these audio APIs that people use for making games, which are very advanced and very, very cool. And they will support things like having multiple layers of audio and blending between them based on events being sent by the game and games triggering loops. So they are very cool and very advanced. And I essentially just want to make my own one of those that is not as enterprise, but more of a kind of an indie level thing that works how I want it to work, that works kind of approach it more from a sort of a modular synthesizer paradigm. So these ones are very much come from like an arranger paradigm. They're still kind of made with the idea of kind of writing a score using a sort of a left to right timeline. And I just want to do something different. I want to approach it with get rid of that timeline, or, say if I want a different timeline, I can drop a different thing in. I can use a grid-based system. I can use a sort of a procedural, non-linear mathematical function to say what notes to play instead, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's my goal. One day we'll see.
That does sound really cool, though. I think
it would
can
be
see
really
why you're
good,
excited about it.
Yeah. Yes, I think it would be good. A lot of time is just I make a noise, I make a sound that evolves, and on my keyboard it can evolve forever and sort of stay unique and interesting forever. But to get that sound into a game, I have to capture a slice of it and then kind of try and make invisible loop points and stuff. And even like I'm getting better at doing now shorter slices that are still interesting. They're turning into those 10-hour music for work, study, and chill kind of things sometimes, where it becomes like, how can I make a short piece of music that you can just listen to forever without getting bored of it? Which is an interesting challenge in itself. But also I'd like to just to be able to do these evolving sounds and just have them continually doing their thing, as it were, the whole time in the background, which, we've got lots of CPU cores these days. We can surely free one up for that.
So just so we're on the same page and everyone listening,
Yep.
the idea is rather than wanting to just capture a sound to play in the game, you want to basically have a digital synthesizer so you can create those sounds within the game and then adapt them as the game needs.
Yeah, that's right. So modify them on the fly in response. The game can just, immediately send events to the synthesizer, and it can make things brighter or darker or more intense or less intense, and so on. And we can still kind of do that. There are ways to kind of do that now. I just like my way.
Right.
That I want to do it.
But again, the whole I didn't want to map in the game, the scope creep issue.
Yeah, that's right. But I'm being pretty
game?
firm about this one because I know that that would be a lot of work. So yes, I have to release the game.